Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be taking a quick look at the promotional site for patch 6.2. Now because it's the first post of the promotional site, it's pretty bare bones, but they did do something quite a bit different with this promotional site that I wasn't entirely prepared for. And that thing is the artwork that's on your screen now. Normally we get this artwork revealed to us in a live letter, but to find out the promotional page was up, and it had featured artwork, well, that was a nice little surprise because it gives us a little bit of room to speculate about the bosses and story that are going to be taking place in 6.2's addition to the Pandemonium Raid series. Now, before we go over this picture in a little more detail with some speculation, they do have a reminder of all of the content that will be put in patch 6.2 and the various timings they will be released. New main scenario quest, of course, that's a gimme. New high-end raid Pandemonium Abyssos. On top of that, Abyssos Savage will be 1 week after the release of the patch, so you'll have a week of the normal mode to dissect that. Now, Island Sanctuary is unmarked in terms of its release schedule here, but they definitely said something about 0.25 in the previous live letter. Right now, it just seems to be slated for 6.2x, which means it will probably be thrown into the 0.25 patch, unless they want to separate it from the Criterion and variant dungeons, which will be releasing at that same time, as well as the Manderville weapons. Our new dungeon, the Fell Court of Troya, definitely part of the MSQ, as they have been. New trial, which they're keeping a secret. Because they're keeping it a secret, a lot of people are wondering if it will actually be the Four Fiends. I've even started subscribing to the tinfoil hat theory that it'll actually be Golbez, or one other enemy that I won't spoil for those who aren't too in tune with the MSQ. But yeah, who knows? They said they won't tell us until the patch actually drops, so it will be a surprise through and through. The first variant dungeon, the Sildene Sub Terrain, this is a pick-your-own-adventure style story where you can play it multiple times to get all of the story, where we'll be escorting an NPC through a dangerous dungeon. Well, the Criterion dungeon is an extreme and savage version of that same dungeon, this time with a set path, but more strict mechanics, DPS checks, etc. It is our high difficulty 4-man content that we're getting in this patch. New Unreal trial, which will be Sephiroth, does have some changes coming to it to make it a little more modern, but should still be a pretty tough experience for those who never did the fight back in the day. Might need to re-release that guide just to make sure that we have something, that people can study up on that's more recent. Main scenario revisions, that is just them adding duty support to some of the Heavensward dungeons, as well as the rest of the Realm Reborn main scenario ones, which they said they were doing, and also making some adjustments to things like Moggle Mog by streamlining that experience a little bit. Tataru's Grand Endeavor, also without a release date, probably going to be in 0.25. Don't forget, for this next Tataru's Grand Endeavor, you are going to need the 24-man raid series from Heavensward Complete, the Void Arc series leading up to and through, what was the last one called again? It's been a hot minute since I've done it. What was it called? Man, it's Void Arc, Weeping City. Why can't I remember the last one? You need those three. Anyway, let's see. Somehow Further Hildebrand Adventures, continuing that. The Manderville weapons, also going to be in patch 6.25. The Omicron Gathering Tribal Quests, which are going to be in 0.25. The official release of Adventure Plates, including some nice quality of life that it definitely needs. Allegan Tombstones of Causality, our new weekly cap tome, new crafting recipes, mounts, minions, emotes, fashion accessories, and more. We'll find out what and more means in the future. Now back to this image, I'd actually like to pull up a different version of this image, one that's a little less busy on the screen, if you don't mind me. So there we go. The wonders of a display capture and pressing F12 to find the file in the actual website. So with this much clearer look at the image, there's a lot of things happening. Now in the back, we can see Pandemonium. We see the doors flung wide open and an individual standing there. Most likely the individual that, if you flip your head upside down, or the image as we'll do in a second here, is the character that is at the bottom of the screen. For our three main characters in the front, we have Themis on the right. We have Eric Tony, as I like to call him, on the left, on the top left, or Eric Tonios, if you prefer. And much to our surprise, a face reveal for Eric Tonios' father, La Habrea, the current sitting La Habrea as of 12,000 years ago, indicated by his red mask. I'm sure if we took his hand away, we'd see the two fangs that we associate with La Habrea's mask. A very odd reveal and a very dashing older gentleman. One of the older Ascians that we've seen, or one of the older appearances that we've seen for an Ascian overall, especially with the facial hair around here. You know, you got the little lock of hair flowing, and then he's got this kind of medium length flowing hair. It's kind of nice. I like it. Now, however, the big detail that people are, of course, talking about, when you flip the image 180 degrees, we have another Ascian here at the bottom. Now, a couple things to note. For one, he has a white mask, which implies he is not one of the convocation. He is a peasant, as I like to call them, but he's likely got a Greek name of some kind, and the thing is trying to figure out what his Greek name actually is. He also has a multi-eyed, what looks to be cephalopod behind him, though it's kind of hard to tell if the cephalopod and the creature are all kind of one continuous thing. There also looks to be almost these tree branches in the back as well. So depending on what that thing is and how much of that kind of belongs together, or is just the fading artwork in the back, there's a lot of little questions that can kind of point you in the identity or the direction of the identity of this character. I've seen some theories around that there's the mad scientist that La Habrea is. He will have separated himself from, well, himself, which is why the La Habrea that we have when the image is right side up almost seems virtuous and knowledgeable. He has this air about him that's like almost good. He even has that white smoke behind him, which almost looks like angel wings in this sense, while it's most likely just meant to be a fog rolling out of the entrance to Abyssos itself. Whereas if you flip the image, you have this evil moniker, about the same hair length, you know, missing the facial hair and a bit sharper facial features, almost like Emmett Selk. I feel like myself and many others get more of an Emmett Selk kind of feel from this character. But again, if we look at different things, you can just kind of pick pieces apart. For one, it's upside down right now, but on the left-hand side of the screen is a crow or a raven. Now, we have to remember that most of the things that we get from the ancients are based on Greek mythology or Greek history. So a crow or a raven, I think that often has to do with like Apollo or Hera. It's generally a raven kind of just observes and watches. So it's possible that it could kind of be like the shoebill, and maybe Emmett Selk has sort of an emissary in a sense, feeding back information, or it's possible that it's a hint to the identity of this character. Now, we haven't met Apollo as far as I know when it comes to the different Ascians, but the idea of Apollo serving under Hephaestus, or Hephaestus, I can't remember what the pronunciation is, which is the theorized identity of La Habrea, his actual name, and not his name for his seat on the convocation. It would be really weird for Apollo to be underneath La Habrea. You know, there's other characters like Phosphorus, which would be Hesperos's brother, that are possibilities. But Apollo, yeah, that just doesn't seem likely. Now, one thing that I wanted to try to follow breadcrumb-wise was the cephalopod in the back. Now, we can actually see not just the tentacles that are coming out, but if you look on the left-hand side, you can see a snake head that's very, very small. I think it's the only actual snake head we see right here, which throws a whole bunch of wrenches in. Obviously, most people think of the Kraken when they think of a giant cephalopod, but the Kraken isn't really a Greek thing. It's featured in like some mainstream media Greek-related stuff, but it's not really a Greek creature. There are other cephalopods like Scylla, like Charybdis, and with a snake, the Gorgon. Now, a multi-eyed creature as well in the back. We could be looking at the Gorgon more than anything, and this merging of this character and the Gorgon, much like we had with Hesperos and the Harpy, could lead to this almost Medusa-esque appearance, a male Medusa-esque appearance coming out of the actual final boss. The question is, are those, again, those things that almost look like tree branches in the back, are those really tree branches, or are those just the effects of chains that are almost kind of behind this cephalopod-looking creature? So, if I had to make some predictions, we're definitely seeing Arachne. We know one of the arenas is covered in web, and Arachne is a classic Greek creature. We've already had the hippocampus, the phoenix, and the harpy. So that one makes sense. But what else could be in Abyssos? Now, a Cerberus wouldn't surprise me. Again, more associated with Emmett Selk and Hades, I would feel. But for me, that wouldn't be that surprising to see a Cerberus be one of the bosses. On top of that, I think a Gorgon or Scylla. Scylla would be a not too bad guess. And again, a sea creature, but really more associated with the dogs around the neck. That's why it has it in the Crystal Tower, in the Circus Tower, my bad. But they are a sea creature. They do have tentacles, but those tentacles are normally associated with having heads on them. And other than the one snake, we don't really see that. So, and then the Charybdis is like a whirlpool almost-esque thing. It's not really a cephalopod, although sometimes it has tentacles. So I don't know, the Gorgon with the eyes really seems like a pretty safe bet. You can almost see the Gorgon kind of melding to this character right here as well. But man, the identity, I'm sure there's some pretty great theories about that, but it's really hard for me to confidently nail down a guess here with Abyssos. We also have the chains. Now, Erichthonios, of course, is known for his ability to create prisons and chains, and it's a question of how much of these chains are kind of symbolic of his struggle and how much of them are kind of shared between the characters. We see that La Habrea himself, his arm coming through his cloak with his mask, he is enshrouded in chains. Is it because he is kind of the grand mastermind of this whole thing and that's kind of the end goal that we're going to be seeing here? Or does it have something to do with their direct relation to this other Ascian that we have, this unnamed one? Again, you can see his hand coming out of the robe, and the robe is basically shared between the two of them with the way it's drawn. It's done very, very well, just how the robes are kind of all melded together. Even with Erichthonios' robe over on the right-hand side of this, you just kind of see it kind of flow into it really naturally. Oh man, I'm really excited for this. The second raid series, the second part of a raid series, is normally where the meat of the story happens. The first is an introduction, getting to know the characters, establishing a grounds with which we should be invested. And the second one dives deep and quite literally into the abyss with Abyssos. So I'm sure there are people with a lot more knowledge of Greek history and Greek characters who could probably narrow this character down a little bit more than I have, just given a couple of names. And then man, there's so many things that could be. There's too many Greek gods. There's too many for me to possibly go through all of them and come up with a reasonable answer. So that's where we're going to wrap that one up. I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comment section of the video below. Where do you think we're going with this? How do you think of Daddy La Habrea, as we're going to call him? And what do you think of our boy at the bottom? Is he somehow related to La Habrea? Is he another children? Is he like a half-brother? You know, actually, him being a half-brother to Erichthonios would be very interesting. Because there are a few... he has a lot of half-sisters, but... And then he has... Man, actually, though, yeah, if that is Hephaestus or Hephaestus, then that... that would still be weird to be, whatever. We can't get too much into this. This is supposed to be a Greek discussion, but it kind of has to be when it comes to the Ascians. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And stay tuned, of course, when this actually comes around. We will have all the lore and whatnot as we do State of the Realm and all that good stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, take care.